presentations. Okay, may I please ask for a roll call? Present.
Present. Present.
Present.
Trustee Graham?
Present.
Trustee Mills?
Present.
Madam Supervisor, you have 6 members present.
Thank you. We have a quorum, and we'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda for August 13th, 2025.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. We'll move on to public comment number 1. Any person may come forward at this time to address the board. Anyone who wishes to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to ask for a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 9th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Now we'll move on to presentations. So we have 2 presentations. 6.1 is the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. We have Nathan Balderman here to present. If you want to come on up.
All right, good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I will just provide a brief overview of the results of the audit this year. As always in these meetings, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. You can interrupt me at any time. My focus generally when I'm going over the financial statements and the audit results is on the results of the audit, not the financial results themselves. So I'm not going to walk through the report, but would be happy to go to anything that you might have interest in. Also want to start out by thanking the township. We very much enjoy the relationship we have here with the township. This year was a big year. Obviously a little disappointed that Tracy retired, but getting excited about working with Corey going forward. We've already met with him a few weeks ago and looking forward to building that relationship as well. So for the overall results of the audit, you do issue an annual comprehensive financial report. One of the things I always like to point out here is that really is the highest level of reporting that you can do. You go the extra mile at the township here, put in a lot of stuff, extra stuff at the beginning and the end that meets the GFOA's requirements for the annual comprehensive report. You continue to receive the award for that presentation through submission to the GFOA, and you're to be commended for that. So the certificate that's in here is related to last year's audit. They review last year's audit, but we're confident that you'll continue to receive that for 2024 and then going forward. So within those financial statements, you will find our audit report is only like 3 pages, 4 pages maybe. But within that report, we did issue what would be considered an unmodified or a clean opinion. That is what you're looking for in an audit. It means the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. It's not absolute assurance. We didn't look at everything. We're not saying the numbers are perfect, but we give you that assurance that you can rely on the information. We believe that they're fairly stated, and you can rely on the information. So as a part of our audit, we are also required, and this year we were required to perform a single audit, which is a federal awards audit because you spent more than $750,000 that came from the federal government, whether it came through the state of Michigan or directly to you. So that requirement is actually changing in the future. It will be $1 million going forward where you're required to have a single audit. So in that report, What kind of came forward this year, the grant that we ended up testing was the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. So the results are within that report. Basically, we issued an unmodified opinion on compliance with that as well. Now, we did have a few findings in the report. They're outlined in the single audit report. There's two types of findings that we have. There are those that are related to internal controls over financial reporting. That's a requirement when you have a single audit and in an audit in general, we're required to look at those internal controls over the financial audit. And then we're also required to report on internal controls over compliance and any immaterial noncompliance as well. So we didn't find any material noncompliance. We did find a couple of issues related to internal controls in the report. The financial reporting was technically the schedule of expenditures of federal awards is a financial report. There was initially an error in that where we discovered an item and the amounts had to be increased in what was reported. And then there was a couple of items related to independent review and approval for reporting. We as a part of internal controls over compliance, you need to have those internal controls, just like when you make a payment, when you do reporting or do other compliance requirements, you're required to have internal controls over that, make sure that there's accurate financial reporting on those. And then there's some suspension to debarment checks that had to be made as well. And again, those items are outlined in detail in those reports. But again, neither of those we raised to the level of material, and management's response and corrective action are included in there as well. And actually, Corey and I were just talking about it today on some of the corrections that were being made. So, overall, I would say, it's a very clean audit. There were a few issues to make corrections for and to look at going forward. But again, not anything that will be really difficult to correct. So happy to answer any questions you have on any of this. We also did issue a separate letter, but nothing in that I would really draw your attention to. So,
Are there any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. Nate, do you know when they're going to change the threshold amount to $1 million?
It will be effective for your December 31st, 2025 audit. It's based, the change was made, the uniform guidance, how it affects the single audits was, the effective date was October 1st of 2024. And so so it becomes effective for that first full year after that. So that's where it becomes effective for you is this next year. So for 2025, as we wrap up 2025, if you have less than $1 million, that's where you won't have to have a single audit this next year. So
in essence, it goes into effect on January 1, 2026 for the look back for 2025.
Well, yeah, that's one way to look at it,
Okay.
yes. So there's other parts of it, just to be upfront, the uniform guidance was effective October 1st, 2024. There's certain other requirements that are dependent upon the grant period of what you're in when that grant was started, whether or not that grant, because there's other things that were in there like capitalization thresholds, where you have to consider something equipment and keep track of it, and some other things that are taking effect that just doesn't impact just the single audit, our side of things, it affects your side of things on compliance. So,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Are there any more questions or comments?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
your
you.
hard work on that.
Yep, have a great evening.
All right. We have a second presentation, 6.2 from ATA presentation, the ride.
Hi, I'm
Good
Ken
evening.
Anderson. I am the team lead for service planning at the Ann Arbor Transportation Authority. With me back here is Forrest Yang. He's the deputy CEO for planning and innovation. Now, let's see if I get this right. There we go.
Got it.
First thing we are going to talk about is the fixed route services. So the bus service area for Pittsfield Township is located north of Ellsworth Road in the most densely populated areas of the township. The routes connect those northern areas of the township to shopping and residential areas, downtown Ann Arbor, downtown Ypsilanti, and all sorts of points in between. This graph shows fixed route ridership. Now, the years that are shown are 2023 to 2024, and then the year after that. That was the most recent data that we had available when we were putting this presentation together. And so what it shows is that fixed route ridership between those 2 years increased. Now, the up and down and the fluctuations that you see in there, those are due to various factors like high schools and colleges being in and out of session. Weather actually affects how much people ride the bus, and holidays and things like that. For the Pittsfield Township, that year-over-year increase in services was 4.6%. The next thing we'll talk about is A-Ride services. A-Ride services are curb-to-curb service that is provided in accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act for people that are unable to ride regular fixed route buses due to mobility issues. So what's shown here on the top part, the darker green area, is called the base service. That service picks up and drops off passengers with disabilities anywhere within 3/4 of a mile of a fixed bus route. Now, Pittsfield Township also has additional layer of service on top of that. It's kind of shown in the light green area down there, and I apologize. This is an old map, so it looks kind of blocky compared to newer maps that we have right now that look, a little more geographically correct. So for Pittsfield Township, in addition to the base service that's shown in there, passengers can travel anywhere within the township, and they can travel to or from Ann Arbor on a single trip. Now, if A-Ride person wants to go anywhere in addition to that, they can connect to other services, but they'll have to pay another fare and board a bus or, transfer to another vehicle or things like that. For the A-Ride services, those also increased year over year. The increase for Pittsfield Township was 9.5%. Flex Ride service is a curb-to-curb service that picks up and drops off passengers anywhere within the red boundaries shown on the map. Unlike A-Ride, Flex Ride service is available to the general public. Flex Ride is designed to serve the lower density areas of the township where running a fixed route bus won't be effective. So they might be a little bit small on there, but the top destinations within the township over the last year were Meyer on Carpenter Road, the Mediterranean Market up at Ellsworth and Platt, the Meyer on Ann Arbor Saline Road, the Walmart on Michigan Ave, and the NOAA Research Lab on State Road by Avis Farms. Flex Ride Township for year over year has been consistent. It roughly held consistently around 0%. For future initiatives, and actually a past initiative that I'm going to mention here, Flex Ride underwent a vendor change last August. We have a private vendor that operates it as a turnkey service. So they provide the vehicles, they do the booking on our behalf, and they basically run the operational part of it. Changing the vendors allowed us to set up a new set of technologies that allow passengers to book trips in real time, either using a smartphone app or calling into a customer service line. The vendor that we had before that was a little bit more limited at what they were able to do. Now, for fixed route service, beginning on August 24th, we're going to implement a set of route changes that are designed to improve operational performance through things like route and schedule changes. Hopefully, it's designed to improve the customer experience overall. Now, for marketing initiatives, Our PACE department, the Public Affairs and Community Engagement Department, will be communicating those fixed route changes for August, and they also do Flex Ride. The Flex Ride communications, along with the fixed route communications, aren't targeted at specific areas, but they are more of general campaigns. So you'll see information on buses, at transit centers, online, and on social media. Printed information is already available along with information online. Now, I'm actually excited about this next thing a little bit. We're going to be doing a market segmentation study. So what that means is we're going to be taking a deep dive into the partner areas and the POSA partner areas that the AAATA serves. So what this is going to allow us to do is to learn about the different markets. Like, for example, youth, seniors, commuters, non-commuters, people that don't use the bus, things like that. And it's going to kind of give us a demographic analysis on what those different groups are, but then it's going to take an even deeper dive into looking at the communications methods that will allow us to communicate most effectively with those groups. So the main focus of that study is going to be those individual groups, but we're also going to take a geographic, kind of do a geographic analysis of it and then focus on specific areas around and look at it that way too. Now, this is the 2026 POSA agreement. This chart is taken from one of the exhibits in the POSA contract document, and it illustrates the cost for the upcoming calendar year 2026. So that's the year ending on December 31st, 2026. What this represents is the costs that are coming up for that year, and in comparison to the previous year, the new costs reflect inflationary increases, and it also takes into account a decrease in state aid for transit. So that is all I have, and Forrest and I will entertain any questions that you might have. Thank you for entertaining us.
Okay, I'm open up for questions. I do want to say that we do have our contract that will be coming up at the end of this year for next year, so that's why the presentation is happening. And I know when Director Watkins had given this kind of the state of the finances, we talked about how this is one of our extra costs as well as our larger costs, as well as roads. So it's definitely something we want to make sure we analyze properly. Do we have questions or comments?
I do have some comments.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, for the municipalities who have millages, are we on par of paying what they're paying through their millage? Or, I mean, how does that work when they have a millage and they collect, say,
Part of the authority, yeah. So,
$800,000? Did they say $800,000 is what we got? That's it? Is that how the other municipalities do it?
The millages do work in the same way, and the level of services do reflect to a certain extent the amount that each municipality is able to pay into the system. So, you know, with Ann Arbor having more people and density and property values that are, you know, kind of high, they do put in quite a bit more than some of the municipalities in the system. But when we design the service, it takes into account equity and other factors like that. So it isn't just, you know, super frequent in Ann Arbor or anything like that. It also runs around, you know, the other areas as well.
Yeah, because I just wonder how we're figuring out the cost for our services. Because I know the previous year we spent about about $100,000 less than this year. So it's increased $100,000. But, you know, I'm like, that's a huge jump, right? Or not? Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
there
are
is.
other municipalities, are there costs?
Yes, costs went up across the board. I mean, for the last few years, labor costs and other inflationary increases definitely have gone up. We are, for operational costs, labor, it makes up the vast majority of that, and so that has been going up. Materials and costs have also been going up as well. And then this year, the other factor in there is that the state aid for transit funding out of the Comprehensive Transportation Fund did go down by several percent, and so that did, that does represent a not insignificant cost increase as well.
When you're determining how many
So, would you like the nerdy answer to that, or I'll try to give one somewhere in between?
In between,
Okay.
something in between.
So what we do actually on that one is I take the total ridership for the routes that pass through Pittsfield Township, that we have ridership every time somebody gets on board or gets off a bus, we're able to see where that is by individual stop. And so then what I do for that is I take the percentages, I take the percentages of people, if you calculate that over the course of the entire route, it will give you a certain percentage of people boarded within the township, and then we multiply that against the entire ridership for that route, add all the routes together that pass through Pittsfield Township. So I'm sure there's a little wobble in there in that some of those people, but it's fairly accurate within a few percent.
Okay. Now, so as I was stating before, the price has been increasing over the years. Almost, well, sometimes $100,000, but a little bit more. Do we expect it, like, once the federal government gets their act together and can provide more funding, you expect the cost to go down, correct?
So the years leading up to this one, we actually did service expansions, so that service runs more frequently on the weekends. It runs a little bit, actually on the weekends it runs a lot later, and then on weekdays it also runs a little bit later too. So in the years leading up to this one, those cost increases went into effect with the enhanced service. Now with this year, we'll cross our fingers that, the federal and state don't continue to cut on that, but we're not expecting that the increases are going to be quite as dramatic as we go forward as they were last year and the year before that.
So, this flex ride, is that the one where they get on their phone or whatever, and
Mhm.
then they come and pick you up at a specified location, like maybe their home?
Yes,
And then they get the minivan or bus, whatever, to the central location?
exactly.
Is that how that happened? Okay, and because, there is a huge cost in the flex ride for us, do you know if our services for the flex ride, are they increasing, decreasing?
So up until this year, since the pandemic kind of reset everything. So Flex Ride has been increasing year over year. It did kind of flatten out in the later part of this year, but if you look at the graph, it looked like it was starting up on an upward trend again. So just because I had to pick June for June, I'm not sure if that's going to reflect what actually happened in this year's calendar year, but we are providing quarterly reports to staff so that as that goes forward, we can show you what happens on an ongoing basis.
This is just the last question. How many people were using that service? Did you have that in there?
It was
The flex ride.
Flex Ride.
Just over 1,000 rides.
It was 4,200.
4,000, but that's just saying, picking
Oh,
up
per
from
quarter.
Pittsfield,
1,000 per quarter.
bringing to like Meyer or something.
And you can go, no, that's A-Ride. Yes, that is within the Pittsfield Township, within that map borders that were shown on there. But if a person wants to transfer to a fixed route, we take them to a couple different areas like the 2 Myers or anywhere, kind of along Ellsworth Road. They can transfer there and then they can go anywhere else within the system.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can you tell us how many Flex Ride vehicles are operating in the township during service hours?
That one I will ask Forrest for some backup.
Okay. Yep, come on up. Yep. The one vehicle, okay. Is it possible for you all to offer more detailed data in the quarterly service reports, like maybe cancellation rates or peak service hours? Is that possible going forward? Would be able to get that information?
Yeah.
Okay. And keep in mind, AAT is very, very, very important. I'm just going to ask you some tough questions, but I do understand the importance of, the transportation. The township pays over $40 a ride for a booked flex ride. We certainly understand, that there's on-demand service covering a huge area. It's never going to be as efficient as a fixed route service. But that's still a really big number to pay. Quarterly service reports show that over 1,000 rides per quarter using the flex ride. Do you have any suggestions to how do we improve that efficiency and boost ridership beyond just us marketing it? Are there other communities doing different things or things that you're looking for in the future to help that?
So with the vendor and the new software that we implemented, we're actually working through the old vendor, because it was more, the way that they did it was more of a traditional by hand. There weren't a lot of efficiencies in how that operated because a lot of people just ended up on trips by themselves. The new software allows, it's computer-based, but it's also overseen by the vendors, so it allows them to link trips up together so that we can get more people on a vehicle at one time. And then we're going to look at other parameters to see if there are things that we can adjust as well.
Okay, so you're looking at that, because that's a large amount. It's like $40 a ride sort of thing. So year over year, the creases are becoming, as Clerk Gonzalez said, kind of unsustainable for the township. Is there an alternative plan for cost reductions for us to consider, especially with our flex ride? I think our flex ride is really where we're just not, we're paying a rather high amount, and I think we just need to figure out if there's wiggle room or how we can get that down or get the ridership up kind of thing.
It's definitely something that we're looking into and we'll be able to get back to you and staff on. The downside to Flex Ride is the more ridership that you have, you just have to put more vehicles out there to accommodate it. So it's something it's not like a bus where you have a lot of people going on the same trip. So that'll be something that we have to look at as we go forward.
Yeah, just cost per ride, that's about the $42 is kind of a lot. I think maybe, and I know cancellation rates and other things are in there, but we'd like to really look at that. I'm sorry, any more questions or comments?
I had a couple of questions, actually. My first question was really around, with the state budget not being defined yet and knowing that's going to be out, what is that? Is that a variable in this equation when we're talking about from our expenses?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So I know that's going to be held up there. And then one of the other things you talked about, and I saw you perk up about it, and I like data as well. So when you're talking about the market analysis and you're looking at the different dimensions of that, could you expand a little bit more? Like what are the different dimensions that you're going to have that in that market analysis? You said region was going to be part of it, so I'm assuming Pittsfield Township, but are we going to have that broken down by age, race, disability? I'd like to understand a little bit more about your market analysis so we can understand the consumers a bit more from Pittsfield Township.
That is we are early stages of this right now, and it's a separate department. So coming up, over the course of the next how many ever months, that will be something that we can call in somebody from our community engagement department and get more information if you're interested.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Mills, did you have a question? Oh, okay.
Questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay, well, again, we appreciate your coming in here and presenting everything, and it's a big expense, so we're going to take it very seriously, but we
Okay.
do understand the importance of, mass transportation in the region and want to be good partners, but also we have to make sure that we're, being fiscally responsible, so thank you.
Of course.
Thank
Thank
you so
you
much.
all.
All right. Moving on to communications. Do I have a motion to file and receive the communication?
Madam Chair, I move to receive and file communications.
Second.
Okay, I do want to just talk about the one communication that's in here. It's concerning a meeting from November 2022, a BOT meeting, where comments were made that did offend an applicant. And just like to put out a reminder to be mindful of comments and always be respectful and make sure that we're that when we're in meetings and in our general work in general. So, all right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, received and filed. Making a motion for our consent agenda, please.
Madam Chair, I move to consent agenda 8.1 to 8.16.
Second.
Okay, any comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move down to 11.1. I can get a motion to receive.
Madam Chair, I move to receive the draft fiscal year 2026 Pittsfield Charter Township budget.
Second.
Okay, I'd like to, at this point, introduce officially Corey Schmidt, our new Director of Finance. Corey, if you want to just come up and just, I know that we had a very big celebration for Director Watkins, who had been here for 34 years, and those are big shoes to fill, but I will tell you that we have the person to fill them. He is wonderful. And I just want to ask you to go ahead and talk about the timeline and how we're going to go through this budget process in the new way here.
Sure, thank you, Board. The memo in the packet kind of outlines the next couple dates. So tonight, you've got a copy of the draft budget that was developed through a fairly rigorous process internally. The next step is on September 10th, after your regular board meeting, there would be a work session to go over the budget. Department heads would be available to, essentially give an overview of their budget, some of the key highlights. We'll talk a little bit about big picture, where the funds are standing as we head into 2026. It's a good opportunity to have a dialogue about what is in the budget. After that, the next step would be to hold a public hearing on the millage rates and the draft budget. That's planned for September 24th. There is a deadline that falls from that, so there's a form we have to submit by September 30th that adopts our millage rates. So that's really our key date to keep in mind in the next month. And then really any time after that public hearing, before the end of the year, the board could adopt the budget formally. We put in there, tentatively October 8th. There is time, though, if more dialogue or questions came up as a result of either the work session or the public hearing. But we wanted to kind of lay out what we anticipate the process would look like.
Okay. Any questions for Director Schmidt? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll receive the draft. May I please have a motion for 11.2?
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign a contract order addendum with Blue Scope Construction for Phase 2 of the Public Safety Facility Improvement Project at a cost not to exceed $3,979,851, subject to Township Attorney approval.
Support.
Okay, any discussion on this one? We're just moving right along with the building next door.
What are we doing for phase 2?
Can I go ahead and call up Director Gray, or, yep?
Thank you, Board. Phase 2 is just really a continuation of the first portion of new construction for the fire station and the second phase, or the second portion of construction, which is renovation of the old fire bays and renovation of the old police and fire station, new surfaces, and kind of like a reorganization of where offices sit. Just really a renovation project too.
Are you guys, are police and fire going to be relocated for this
So in
issue?
order for the second portion during phase 2, in order for the second portion of renovation to begin, the first phase of construction, the building of the new portion of the building, needs to be complete to a level that the fire department can move in for Station 1 operations. So once they move in, they've moved all their apparatus over into those fire bays, that we will then be able to vacate the older portion of the building. The patrol operations for police are going to move to what we're going to be calling the community room. And it's a very large space, so it's going to be a unique circumstance for them to work for the months that they need to be there, but they'll have some new facilities there from the new portion of the building to use during that time. Our records department will do the same. So our records department is moving over into the new portion of the building, and administration and the detective bureau will be moving out, and very lucky and helpful to have the Parks Department willing to work with us and moving over into some office space at 701. And that's where we'll be moving Detective Bureau and administration for that time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And big kudos to the Parks and Rec Department and
Yes.
Director Wade there for accommodating and really being team players in this. It would have cost us a large amount, hundreds of thousands of dollars to rent out space. And this way, any money that we're putting into the move over there will be an improvement to the building over at Parks and Rec, which makes much more sense in the long run. But it is an inconvenience for
They've been very
police,
gracious. Yes,
fire, for that, and for former Director Weiland to be able to coordinate that. It's very helpful. Thank you for the team for
yes.
stepping up.
We're a large house guest, and that's it's a long time for us to be there, so we really do appreciate the partnership there.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes, and we'll ask for a motion for 11.3.
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the supervisor and clerk enter into a contract with Washtenaw County to receive $200,000 for the operation of the Pittsfield Township Senior Community Center, subject to township attorney approval.
Support.
Okay, discussion? I'd like to actually thank Deputy Almacher and for putting this together, and for Commissioner Sanders for being actually at the county fighting for this for us. This has been a long time in the making at the county level, and long meetings to get down to this. But to have this kind of money going in, the Parks and Rec and the Park and Rec staff have put together a list of all the things that they'd like to see happen to help the seniors, and it's exciting that we'll be able to make that happen. So I just want to comment on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanders, and thank your son, too. All meetings.
All right, any more discussion or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. May I ask for a motion for 11.4?
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the supervisor to respond to a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act appeal within 10 days of its official receipt and in accordance with the recommendation of the township attorney.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this one? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. May I ask for a motion for 11.5?
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the supervisor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Gerald Alcock Company LLC for appraisal services in the P4 Investment LLC Tax Tribunal case for a cost not to exceed $9,500, not including the cost of any post-appraisal work, subject to the township attorney approval.
Support.
Okay, any comment or discussion on this one?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. May I ask for a motion for 11.6?
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the supervisor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Benzinski and Company Municipal Finance Advisors for the preparation and submission of an annual information statement for a cost not to exceed $3,500, subject to township attorney approval.
Support.
Okay, just give a little background on this one. As we were going through the bond process, it was brought to our attention that there was a previous bonds back in 2016, but there's annual reports that need to happen. The township got a little behind on them, and so the reports between 2020 and 2024 need to be brought up to speed, and they're going to help us do that so that we can move forward with our current bond. So, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, if I can ask for a motion for 11.7.
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the supervisor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Signs by Graney for installation of park entrance signs at Graywall Park for a cost not to exceed $6,750.10, subject to the township attorney approval.
Support.
Okay, any discussion on this one? We do have Director Wade here. They've worked tirelessly with the Park Commission to get these signs up and running. We won't have this one in time for the ribbon cutting on August 20th for the park, but we'll have a temporary sign, and then we'll bring that in afterwards.
Good job.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. We'll move on to 12.1.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the revised 2025 Pittsfield Charter Township Board Rules.
Support.
Okay, I'd like to actually thank Clerk Anzaldi and Deputy Almacher on this one for putting in, I don't even know how many hours, but they really put a lot of work back and forth and really did a good collaboration on it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. No discussion? No? Okay. All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
sorry, should we roll call? Is it okay?
Yeah, you can do a roll call.
That's a roll call.
Sure,
What the heck?
sure.
Let's bring Jill into the mix here. May I ask for a roll call, please?
Supervisor Riley?
Yes.
Clerk Anzaldi?
Yes.
Trustee Erda Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Jaffer?
Yes.
Trustee Braybeck?
Yes.
Trustee Mills?
Yes.
Madam Supervisor, you have 68.
Thank you. The board policy, the rules are adopted, and I think it's important that we all state that. All right, may I ask for a motion to adopt or 12.2?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the revised 2025 Pittsfield Charter Township purchasing policy.
Second.
I'm going to say the same thing about Clerk Van Zaldi and Deputy Almaker on this, too.
Thank you.
Great job. So, all right. May I ask for a roll call on this one as well?
Clerk Van Zaldi?
Yes.
Trustee Erda Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Jaffer?
Yes.
Trustee Braybeck?
Yes.
Trustee Mills?
Yes.
Supervisor Riley?
Yes.
Chair, you pass 6 yeas.
All right. Purchasing policy is adopted. All right. I don't think we have any new business. We have any liaison reports, trustee reports?
We do have an election in November for WISD. I did mention it at the last meeting. There will be more details about whether we're doing a full-scale early voting. So we're gearing up already for this little election.
Good.
Okay. And I would like to put in a plug that I know you all got the email, and we'll send out reminders that we're going to have a joint session on Monday, September 8th, with the BOT and the Planning Commission to have MSU Extension come in and do a workshop. I think it's really important, if you can make it, we'd really like to have you there. It's going to talk a little about the environment. We're going to talk about things that we should consider, especially going into a master plan in a couple of years, to make sure that there's a lot of things out there, and I know that we've all heard bits and pieces about people aging in place, or losing our youth to different states. And there's also the data centers. I mean, we had a roundtable this morning with Senator Slotkin, and it was a very big topic, and I think it's something that the communities around us are dealing with quickly without a lot of information, and I think it would be smart for us to get ahead of the environments that are around us, so that when these things come to us and affect us, we know how to react, or at least best we can, and have the support. So please get on your calendar and try to make that one
Sure.
if you can.
Sure.
All right. Other than that, I will go ahead and open it up for public comment too. Any person may come forward at this time to address the board. Anyone who wishes to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Oh, hello.
Christina Laronis, 151 East Textile Road. I brought my daughter. She's being so good, Aurelia. Although she did say she didn't want to be here, but I think she got a lot out of it. She's very interested in the public transportation. They talk about it a lot at her day program, so that was a good discussion. I really only had, another country heard from. I really had only a question. I didn't quite catch it. What was the date of the joint meeting with the Planning Commission?
September 8th.
September 8th?
Which is a Monday night at 6, I believe. Is that correct?
6:30?
6:30. Okay, sorry. Yes.
6:30 p.m. And it'll be here?
Yes.
Okay,
Notice
September
I keep looking at.
September
This will be posted.
8, you
Yeah,
said?
the notice will be posted, obviously, and yes, but yes.
Okay, September 8, Monday, 6:30 p.m.
Yes.
And then you said we had an election coming up. Are you just talking about 2026, or are you talking about in August?
In November.
In November, I'm a month
November
behind.
of
November.
2025.
What's in November? The school board?
The
WISD.
WISD.
Oh, WISD.
Having a millage, and I can't remember, I think it's a new millage, right, Deputy Clerk?
Technical is a new one, I
Technical
believe.
something,
Oh.
so.
Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you, that's all.
I'll bring the proposal at the next meeting for anybody who wants to
Okay.
see it.
All right, I can look online too, on the county clerk, so, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to come and speak? Yep, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Caroline Sanders. I always prefer not to give the address because you can find it, but I'll just use BLC 220 North Main Street. I just wanted to add a couple of comments related to Triple TA's presentation. One would be you did bring up data. I think that it's important that we find out the actual demographics, so what are the ages of the riders? I think especially because we now have the senior millage, that transportation is going to be a big part of that millage. And so it would be helpful for us as a township if we knew the age of our riders And therefore, we would be able to, I think, negotiate better in terms of whether or not that age group is going to lessen our costs with triple TA, because the millage dollars would then be there to transport more mature adults. The other was that I did ask for some help from some of your staff and electeds to give me information. And the one thing that stuck out was that we have not received any information, I think, since 2019 that looks at the number of cancellations, how many people are being actually picked up. And I think that's very important when you're trying to negotiate your contract with them, especially if we're talking about for a particular segment of the ride, $42 per ride. Because there's other competition out there that may come in cheaper than that maybe the township could look at contracting as well. So just ways to save money, because we're all going to need to be penny pinching, like yesterday. So those were my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. If not, then I will go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned at 7:18.